to be here with all of you, such young minds and young, when you all came and introduced yourself. I don't know, I wish I could have shown the mirror in front. You all had a smile and you were very proud of what you do at YNOS. And that itself is, I think, the first step to communication. So he gave me a topic called Communicating for Excellence. So I'm going to just share my thoughts about what communication means to me. And I think if at the end, you know what happens, we've all gone through this workshops, we'll have a full day workshop and we'll be so charged and we'll say, oh, that's it, from tomorrow I'm going to be a new leaf, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. The moment you go back to your workplace, your work desk, it's all forgotten, because then life takes over, work takes over. But let me start with a story. So this is a real story. So last year around July, January I got the call that from Dhoni Entertainment. So I thought I didn't hear it right. I said, Dhoniya. He said, Madam, MS Dhoni? I said, yeah, he's getting into film production. So I said, what? Is it real? I thought it was a prank call. Then I quickly went onto the laptop. As a solopreneur, I'm always in front of my laptop, waiting for, you remember those olden days, you've got mail, you've got mail. It used to pop up, those kind of mails. But I found that yes, Dhoni was getting into, and no brownie points for guessing why he chose a Tamil film. He only plays, I think, Tala, and like Ayo Shraddha, I don't know if you've seen the Instagram reels, only 3 words that Tamil Nadu has learned for the last 50 years. Mahendra Singh Dhoni. Okay, so in that context, I was thrilled. I was being offered the role of the heroine's mother. So we started shooting and we wound up by June. And July was, by which time IPL, every time we went for a shoot, I was told that Dhoni sir is coming. And I knew there's no way he could come because he was in, the IPL and we won the IPL. So it was amazing and all, and people said, how wonderful, maybe we'll be called for this. And guess what? We were invited for the audio release function. So audio release function happened at the Leela, and see, we are all character actors. We won't be sitting in front. Who will be sitting in front? People who obviously have purchased the release rights, and the hero, the heroine, obviously Mr. Dhoni and Sakshi Dhoni, all of them. MS Dhoni came, and entire Leela, they had restricted the crowd, but it was deafening. And then he got up, he did his speech, everybody, then one by one the song released. And my co-actor, the person who acted as my husband, was very nervous. He said, I haven't slept for 4 days. I want to have a selfie with Dhoni. So I said, I had no such. I said, see, we are able to see, and we were told not to take any, snippets. Thankfully, I took one snippet and then it was announced. So I kept quiet. I didn't take any photos. Then he kept on saying, I have to take a selfie with Dhoni. I said, there's no way. And there were bouncers, every place was cordoned off. Then finally, after everything got over, when people were dispersing, there was this one lady who said, character actors, and she said, ma'am, Janaki ma'am, all of you come on stage. So I was thrilled, we went, but again, there was no guarantee that I would go anywhere next to Mr. Dhoni. But look at my luck, I went, I just saw, this man by that time had gone, taken selfie, kulfi, everything. He was all over him, and Mr. Dhoni was also obliging. And then I got this 1 minute, exactly a few seconds maybe, and I said, Mr. Dhoni, my name is Janaki Sabesh, and I've done a small role in your film. He paused and he said, of course, because he's seen the film. He had already seen the film. None of us had watched it. He said, of course. And then, to my shock and amazement, he called a photographer and he said, bhai, ek photograph lete hain. Come on, let's take a photograph. I was like, jaw-dropping moment for me, and I was like, I am standing next to MS Dhoni. The person who acted as my husband was the other side, and the lady who acted as my mother-in-law, she was a little healthy, she was in front of me. So somewhere in between I get this little bit of space and I get my photo with MS Dhoni. But then why am I sharing this with you? I got exactly 30 or 40 seconds to convey whatever I had to convey to Mr. MS Dhoni. To say that I have done a small role. But look at MS Dhoni, the leader. He made me feel seen and made me feel heard. This is ultimately communication. This is what you will call it's an elevator pitch. For me that was an elevator pitch, but not an elevator, because I would be okay, but yes, are you asking me if I would be disappointed if I had not taken a picture with him? Of course I would have been disappointed, because everybody said, oh, you're going to see Dhoni, you have to take a selfie, you have to take a photo and all. So I wrote a big post with that photo. But how did that photo come to me? Now there were 1,000 people, I didn't know which photographer. I quickly went back, because by that time the bouncers had taken Mr. Dhoni away. I asked the photographer, and the photographer said, ma'am, you don't recognize me. I used to work, I used to supply all your corporate gifts for your events when I was in a corporate avatar for 25 years. And I said, wonderful, do you have my number? He said, no. We exchanged numbers, and that night I got a high resolution picture, which of course is like as good as a national award for me, Captain Cool. And then I realized how important it is to be very concise, to be crisp. If I had gone and blabbered there saying, sir, I'm a big fan of you, all that, much before I wanted that acknowledgement by somebody like Mr. Dhoni, saying that yes, he needn't have said, yes, I know, of course, but he made me feel. That's the mark of a good leader. Now all of you sitting here are leaders in your own sphere. You will have, right now maybe you don't have a team reporting to you, but that is not going to be always, right? You will always, at some point you will have teams. So what does it mean? What is the first point of communicating precisely, concisely, is to be your authentic self. You have to be authentic. If you try to be somebody else, it will fall through. Body language is so important. Right now I don't have a mic, but each one of you is able to hear. Now if the same thing, if I start yelling, I can throw my voice, but the remote control is in my hand. We forget that communication is such a simple, but sometimes we really mess it up. We mess it up because we realize that we are raising our voice for no reason. We are raising our voice for something as simple as colleagues. We will have especially a startup. You call yourself a startup, but I think 7 years, I don't know if you can continue to call yourself a startup, because it's amazing that you are helping other startups to find their way, because it is a maze. Like coming into IIT, Raj was just saying, it's like a maze, right? Every time we have a event here, we have to give them a kind of, for you it's okay, you're already working, but IIT Madras Research Park, then you come to the 3rd floor, you park your car, then you come all the way inside, then you have to look up, you have to see that there are only one lift which takes you to the 10th. All the others will stop at 9. And then you say, what is this? And even the best, and then there was a comment made by another friend of mine saying, only IITians can do this. Make this very complicated design of reaching a club. But you see, communication is very, very important. And there, what you are saying, how you're saying, and that is where your body language becomes very, very important. If you try and say something else and your body mirrors something else, believe me, the listener can definitely find out. Because everybody, just like you are smart, never underestimate the listener, the audience, because they are also equally smart. So if it happens in colleges, it happens in schools especially. The teacher is tired and the body language is like almost I want to go. But she's not even doing an eye contact. Right now I'm trying to see if I can have an eye contact with each one of you. Just once. And what does a child feel when I do storytelling? I do an eye contact once and the child feels that she's talking to me. So when we communicate, when we are not authentic, your eyes will never be on that person. It will be all over. So communication, the first rule is to be authentic. The first rule is to watch out for non-verbal cues even from your client. Maybe the client is fidgeting, he's uncomfortable. You can immediately take a cue and say, are you uncomfortable? Is the AC too much for you? Or is there something, maybe you use certain technical words which went above his head. So do you know the story of YNOS? Do you know how it got its name? Anybody? No, you are not allowed to answer. Pradeep is not allowed. Yes. Let's give it to him. I don't know whether he overheard Professor Rajan telling me, but that's amazing. So see, that authenticity is also about curious. How come none of you have asked that question? You work for a company, you should ask Professor Rajan or Pradeep, how come YNOS? Because I was intrigued. I tried various combination and then I said, why not? You say, why not? Give me money. Arey, why are you asking? Arey, why not? Why not me asking you? I thought of, as a storyteller, my brain went those kind. But that authenticity is also that stay curious like a child. Ask why. Somewhere along the line, when we become adults, we suddenly feel that everything should come to our desk. Everything should be given. It's like Google, if I, put a question. And he said something yesterday in his brief to me. He says, I want to give answers which even Google doesn't have. I might have the silliest question. Like Raj, I'm the chief ideator at Raj's, very beautiful Raj and Avanti. They run something called Little Trails and I'm the chief ideator. And so many times we have children who are in a very small, we have a very cute little space where I do storytelling and they give break every time. They'll say, why? And at that time, if I continue with my story and not answer the why, I'm not being authentic. I'm not being authentic. You have to ask. So this whole thing about working with children makes you understand that when did I stop asking why? So that's as far as authenticity is concerned. The second most important ingredient, most important, I think, which surpasses something in which we don't talk enough is, right now, can you tell me what all sounds you're hearing in this room? AC hum, yeah. Some more sound, huh? Some vessels, yes, some crockery. You're hearing me also, no? Yeah. Just confirming. But there's something more that I want to tell you. Hearing is physical. That's how God made you. That's why we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can speak less and listen more. Listening is a skill. Listening is something that we have completely lost. Especially with social media, we are constantly, doom scrolling. We are not understanding that listening is the most powerful tool where when I'm talking to Professor Rajan, if I had not listened carefully, I would not have known that Sony is the reverse, YNOS is the reverse of Sony. So I stayed curious, I asked him, and I could have asked him over the phone yesterday. But when I asked him here, it was a childlike glee that he had because he said, we started it, we wanted to change it at that time, but then obviously it grows on you, right? Now you can't think of any other name to call yourself. You might say that when you become really, really big and when you no longer call yourself a startup, you can say, like how, do you remember Konica changed its name? Do you know what it was before Konika? Sakura. Yeah. So Sakura, the ad went Sakura, somebody was, speaking onto the cave, and the ad, the echo came back as Konika. Nice, powerful ad. So we go back to something called listening. But listening, are we listening? We are physically here, mentally elsewhere, all that is fine. Active listening. This is the greatest gift that you can give your client and your colleagues. It's extremely important. So today I met two of my ex-colleagues. They were reporting to me, and they said, he showed me he still has boss Janaki. I'm like, I'm no longer your boss. I quit my corporate job in 2019. What are you doing? He said, ma'am, you'll always be a boss. So I said, what is it about, what is it about me that you like? And they still keep in touch. They still tell me. I used to work for a company called Cube Cinema. We were into digital media. I mean, I started the entire, along with all my colleagues and my CEO, we started the digital revolution. Because now digital is a given. Earlier, you remember all those reels which used to go from theater to theater. Yeah, this was Cube, which was a homegrown product. It was made in India product. And 2005 we started, and I said, what is it? I had about 40 of them reporting. I said, what is it? He said something so beautiful which I want to share. He said, ma'am, when we came to you with so many ideas, it could have been something that you already knew, and you said it would help, it would not help, but you never made us feel, you listened. And that, I think, is a very, very important. Your colleagues might tell you something and you might know already, but they are talking. Pause for a moment, listen to them. Because I think more than being authentic, more than your body language, everything, if you don't listen, because sometimes we listen only to reply. You're already building up. If you have seen some interviews, they are really funny, because this lady or this man is already preparing his next question. He is not listening to the person being interviewed, and he asks the question which has already been answered by them. And they are, flummoxed, they are shocked, and they said, but I just answered that question. And then you realize that because for us, when we talk, we are in control, total control. Imagine, if two of you meet after 10 years, you really need an hourglass, because both of you have so much to tell each other. It always happens in reunion. So when we meet, we have a dosti gang, when we meet, I almost say that, okay, 5 minutes is up, now yours. Now, otherwise we'll all be listening to only me, because I'll keep on going chabat. And there's so much that I want to share. But then my daughter tells me, she works for a coffee company, and she says, Ma, you're not listening. She sends me a WhatsApp message, and I've saved it. I've put a star and I've saved it. Because she says it's always not about yourself. It is also about letting other people tell that point of view. Sometimes you might not agree. And when you're listening to somebody is when all kinds of thoughts are coming. What is going to be for dinner? There's a film release tomorrow. Shall I go? So many things. Just like how it used to come when we were in college, in not his class, but in somebody else's class. But let those thoughts come and go. Let those thoughts come and go. But please bring back. I mean, people do meditation, people do so many things, but it is very, very important for us to segue back to that moment. So when I used to go, when I was in my corporate avatar and I had to tell my CEO something, he would have his laptop in front and it would be open, and I'll say, Arvind, can you please shut the laptop? He said, no, but I'm listening. I said, no. For me, listening means, all faculties and that you're giving me, because you're respecting my time. I said, I'll take only 5 minutes of your time. I need some approvals and things like that. So when you communicate to listen, it's brilliant, because not only are you putting your authentic self there, but you also tell them that I respect your time. Same thing as your colleagues. So there are multiple times where I have listened to myself and solved some issues. So imagine this, there is a very big Rajinikanth's film releasing. and a projector and a server has to go. A server is what we made, cube, okay? And it has to go to some remote place in Kerala. I send a mail to my commercial guy and he just replies, he's saying, no server available, no projector, sorry. I'll get killed. Those distributors will say, no way, Janaki ma'am, we need the projector and server. I've sent the mail and pat comes the reply, no server, no projector. So what do? I shut my laptop. I go, he sits in a different place. I go and then I start talking to him and I say, Venkat sir, he says, if you've come to ask me for the projector or server, please go. There is no, I don't have machine. Am I sitting on some inventory or something? I don't have any machines to give you. Then we talk, and I know it's a Rajini sir film release, but he's a Kamal Hassan fan. So we talk about Kamal Hassan. We talk about the only Kamal Hassan sir film that I have acted in, and I describe about, you know, how my experience was. And then we get into this. And then finally I said, okay sir, anyway you've told me that there is no projector server. It was nice. We can have coffee in the pantry sometime. Just as I'm leaving his cabin, he'll say, okay, I'll try. I think there is one projector that's coming from, I think, Pollachi. I'll divert that too. I didn't go with a set thing but I had my gut feel that if I pressurize him in a manner that he also, this could have gone completely, I could have sent back an email saying that, what do you think, we are chumma sitting here, marketing people. You know how marketing and commercial always we fight, no? What do you think? No? You know, I only go to the ground. It could have gone completely different. So the moment you listen, so listening to your colleague, listening to your founders, listening to your other clients, but also listening to self. Go with your gut feel. At some point, you know, if there is something that you really don't agree, there is a way, you know, they always allow, you know, again, communication has to be clear. It has to be concise. And the most important part, it has to be compelling. And how can any communication be compelling? All of you sitting here, you have to tell your story. You have to be storytellers. So you'll ask me, so you were telling stories in your avatar. I was, but I didn't realize it then. How did I keep my flock together? I didn't realize it then. It was through stories. I used to be the one who will constantly travel outside Chennai. But when I came back and I started sharing, you know, saying this client is unhappy about this, that client is unhappy about this, maybe we could try this, you know, call. There was something that I told my clients that I'll never ever not answer your phone, even if it is in the middle of the night. And believe me, for many years I had not seen any festivals, no Pongal, no Diwali, no April 14th, because every time there was a festival, there was a release of a film. And there were problems because we had to, you know, there will be some finance problems, there will be some password problems, there will be something called KDM problems. KDM is key deliverable message, that will go and sit on that server, and only once the KDM is released can that theater play that movie. So all this, I stayed together with the team. I was not doing anything technical. I used to just sit there and I'll ask them, coffee, tea, okay, what else can we do? Okay, do you want me to call this person? Okay, do you want any approvals at this time? Somebody needed a vehicle late at night. See, that time there was no Ubers and all. We would have to ask the admin to give us a car and a driver in the night. Then I would go and speak to the driver. These are little things which I am able to look back and say, I was able to communicate. And I used to tell the driver what an important role he was going to play. Tomorrow, if the movie is releasing in that theater, it is because of you, Anna. He felt so proud, and the next day he'll say, Madam, ticket kadakima in the padathukku. And we used to get him tickets. I'll say, yeah, don't sit in front and all, sit. Balcony seat, we'll get you ticket with popcorn. Because the sense of ownership will come in your communication if you feel it. If you have your, you know, in a startup, you always have the founder's vision, mission, goal statement and all. But if you don't feel it, if it doesn't trickle down to you and you don't feel the necessity of, doing what YNOS is supposed to do, it will just be a job for you. But the moment you feel that, imagine that I am enabling this startup, it could become the biggest thing that India has ever seen or India is giving to the world. You don't know it now. You don't know it now, but you will know. But how will you know it? You will know it as you go along. And there will be differences of opinion. There will be differences between each other. There will be, the data people will say technology is wrong. Technology will say admin is not okay. See, to point fingers, we have enough. And there will be conflicts. But what if I told you that you can avoid conflicts before it becomes a conflict? Communication. You, through non-verbal clues, you can ask, did I do something wrong? Did I hurt you? You can ask something, and you can start the conversation. You don't have to wait for a conflict to blow out of proportions and then sit and negotiate and say, how do I solve this? So let me share a beautiful case study that I love talking about. This was Cadbury's in 2003 in October. It was just about 3 or 4 weeks before Diwali, and one of the shops, remember, no social media at that time, only nothing was there at that time. They found a worm in Cadbury's. It was in dairy milk. So it was immediately, headlines splashed and all, and the Food and Drug Administration, they said, recall all the stock from wherever it is. Cadbury's, top-notch people said that no, it is the retailer's fault. They have not stored it properly. They said no way, nothing. FDA said nothing. Recall all the stock. So imagine, they would have done 30% more sales. They had to stop. First they stopped advertising over TV. Celebrations. Remember all the Cadbury's chocolate? And they said we'll have to, because FDA said no. So complete zero sales, they went negative. And then they sat and they said, how do we solve this problem now? Because Cadbury's was big and their biggest sales was during Diwali. So one of my school friends, Ramnath, he was working with Cadbury, and one of the reunion that we had, he told me about this story. So they all got together. There were 3 things that the then chief told Mr. Bharat, who was the manager who was handling this crisis. He said, you'll be privileged to handle a case like this. This man said, privileged? My whole neck is on this. What is this? Privileged? He says, yeah, but don't do anything that you will regret later. And just go with your gut feel. So first thing they did was clear communication. See, this is a crisis that is not there in any manual, HR manual, that if a crisis comes like this. Otherwise, whenever we have a crisis, we go to the HR manual to see if there's, something written about it. So they said, they sent a note to all their employees saying that we are handling this problem. Don't worry, don't take away your trust from Cadbury's. The second thing they said, okay, Mr. Bharat said, let me tour all the cities and see how else can we do it. So they immediately invested in some 15-20 crores worth of equipment which had double packaging. So if you see Cadbury's and all now, it has a yellow cover and a silver cover, the golden and silver. So there was a big machinery and they started all that. In one of the conferences, one Mr. Upadhyay got up and told Mr. Bharat, sir, we have to have somebody telling that you have done this. We need to advertise. He said, yeah, but who can we approach? So at that time, the Prime Minister was Atal Bihari Vajpayee. So they said, sir, the nation will listen to one person, Mr. Vajpayee. He laughed. Vajpayee, obviously you can't ask him to endorse a product. The second person, sir, Amitabh Bachchan. And they actually got Amitabh Bachchan. They went to him. Amitabh Bachchan said, let me go and inspect the factory. And that is what they did. If you Google, normally I would have shown the ad. It says that when Cadbury's approached me, that's how the ad goes, okay, when Cadbury's approached me, I said, will I be able to, मैं चैन की नींद सो पाऊंगा क्या? Meaning, will I be able to have a good night's sleep after doing this? And they assured me, they took me to the factory, I saw, so they have shots of him eating the Cadbury's, removing it in the factory, removing the wrapper and eating it. And then it ends by saying, आजकल मैं बहुत चैन की नींद सोता हूँ. Nowadays I'm sleeping very soundly. That's it. Now nobody even talks about it. You have to Google 2003 worm to even get. So it was something that in crisis is when the entire company comes together and you have to have a clear-cut communication. I am not saying that you will have a crisis. All I am saying is how communication is important at every step. One more thing that is very important is when you meet a client, think of yourself. Have you heard of Oprah Winfrey? You've seen her shows, right? Super Soul, Sundays, and I'm a big fan of Oprah. I listen to her podcast. Imagine that whoever you meet, you think like Oprah. How does Oprah think? Oh, I'm meeting Mr. Pradeep. Oh, I'm meeting Mr. Rajan. What is that one character of his, or what is his individuality? What is it that I can ask him, and some quality that I don't have, or some quality that is very different. Anybody for that. Sudipta can have a quality which even she doesn't know. So Oprah asks those questions. So if you meet everybody saying every individual is an expert at something. So when you view that startup saying ki kya hai, in your mind you say, what is this here? Is this even a startup? Might be your first reaction, but they have come, there must be something. There are some minds which are really completely gone like a bulb, who have got together and have come to you because they don't know how to go to the next stage. So if you think that everyone is an expert at something, you tweak your brain, your communication, the way you speak to them will automatically change. I don't even have to tell you to listen. You will listen anyway. So when you are talking about communication, it's simple. There is a sender, there is a receiver. Now this sender is saying something, this receiver is receiving. Then this receiver becomes the sender and the sender becomes the receiver. That's it. But we have so many filters. We have so many distractions. We have noise, like you're all trying, there is some obviously party happening there, but it is a long haul. So they've cordoned off, they've given this side, but you're making sure that you are also listening to me. That is what we need. Listening, being empathetic, being authentic, and most importantly, not multitasking while we are having a conversation. Haven't we seen this? Batao. Yeah, tell me, I'm listening to you. How can you listen? Either this goes or you're not listening. You can't. I've had so many people saying, my daughter, she said, Ma, you keep the phones away, then I'll talk to you. But of course, when she is calling, obviously she's in Bangalore and she speaks to me, it is, and she says, Ma, you're distracted. Through my voice, she knows I'm not concentrating. She says, if you're distracted, tell me, I'll call you later. Because for her time is important. Her time is important, and obviously my time is also important. But I will be, daughter is calling, I'll leave everything. But then obviously there's something obstructing. That is when I think we all need to be like children. If they are in a storytelling session, they are only in the storytelling session. They want to ask 101 questions. They want to even say, I don't like you. One child got up in the middle and said, I already know this story. And everybody started laughing in little trails. And I said, okay, so can we have a pact? You know the story, but nobody else knows. Can we keep quiet till, I complete? He said, but all this is not taught. Nothing of my rehearsals will teach me to handle children like that. What do I do when he already knows the story and I have another 15 minutes to complete that story? So every time you need to communicate, just pause. reflect. So I call it the PRR technique, you know, PR, public relations, but no. For me, PRR is pause, reflect, and then respond, not react. React means, yes, our anger, so many things. Yes, it's not that always we will have your boss is shouting at you, you'll say, ha, shout karo. Shout, no problem. You shout, I'll have to be calm because Janaki that day said pause. Of course you will shout back. But then you'll have to figure out what is going to be the outcome. Whether you are going to get, if they have something, you say, yeah, I think there is a problem in the way we have approached this client or whatever. So when you communicate what you have, but at the same time, you also communicate that I don't like being spoken to at that. Most of the times, we don't say it. We keep quiet. And then we will do chugli with all others. No, that fellow, it's going to be a few days old only. After that, I'm not going to. I've done it because at face to face, I'm doing this. Yeah, sure, whatever you said. But then after that, in the pantry, having cups of coffee, water, saying, what does he think of himself? And I'm going to tell HR. HR will say, hi, how are you? Having a good day? Of course, brilliant, beautiful day. Because you still have not found, because obviously there's some element of truth in whatever he or she said. We don't get time to process our information, whether it is good, bad or ugly. So I'd like to end by saying communication is such a beautiful tool. It is something that you are the boss of. Nobody can take away your communication from you. Nobody can come and tell you that I don't like the tone of your voice or I don't like the quality of your voice. That's what I was born with. Nobody can come and say, nobody can say, hey, you can't speak. They can say, hey, you're speaking very loudly. Maybe they can say that, but finally the remote control is in your hand. And when you are telling that whatever it is, if only you keep away your mobile, you don't multitask, you are in the moment, you are investing time, it is so beautiful, either in personal life or in professional life. For people who have children, the moment you go, you are tired, you put your laptop bag and you are like, and the child comes and say, Mama, Papa, and you say, yeah. You're taking out your frustration on what are you communicating to the child? That you're not interested. But that's not what you wanted. You'll say, tell them 2 minutes, I'll just go freshen up and come. You freshen up and you say, okay, I had a bad day, but now my day is going to be so much more beautiful because I'm going to have this little one who doesn't know anything that happened in my office, need not know, and the child is going to give unconditional love. So if you give unconditional love to yourself, listen to yourself, and also say, I'll do the PRR technique, next time. I will pause, I will reflect, and I will react. Email, you get some really terrible emails and you immediately flare up, oh, I had so many drafts. It used to go in my draft folder because I didn't want to immediately reply, because the moment you reply, because that is when you're angry. And after that, after 10 minutes, you'll say, I was the one who wrote that. Terrible. And then I obviously love coffee, have coffee, come back and say, che, this can be solved easily. Saying, okay, let's have a conversation. Finish. I used to tackle all my problems by having conversation because I was sure that I could solve problems talking to each other, not by emails. Because emails, then some words, it's like WhatsApp, Nowadays, we don't have time to even say okay, right? We only do K. I'm like, available, AVLBL. Excuse me, what is this communicating to me? That means you don't have the time. So next time you do a WhatsApp message, especially to your clients, show them that you care. Show them that you have the time. Okay, ma'am. KM'. Today I got. I mean, for me, that I'd rather either speak or you send me an email, na? Because then you know that you're serious about engaging me in, say, a conversation or in a storytelling event. Maya Angelou said something so beautiful. People will forget what you said. People will forget the words that you used. But people will never ever forget how you made them feel. And how you made them feel, of course, I will say only through stories, because that is what people will remember. So when you go back home today, I don't know whether you'll remember everything. You'll have one or two takeaways, but I'll share just this last anecdote of active listening. So I have this lady who comes to cook for us. Her name is Vijaya, and I told her one day that I'm having a friend of my daughter staying over, and she's a vegan, so you cannot put ghee. So I said, whatever you do, don't make ghee, and she will not have curd. We had to get peanut curd for her and all. She said fine, and I had forgotten that I told her. And one day, 2 days later, it was Pongal for breakfast, and Pongal, you know, has lots of ghee. I mean, without ghee, it cannot be Pongal. So then I saw 2 bowls, okay. So I said, what is this? Why are you separating? She said, in Tamil, she said, "Neenga thane ma sonneenga, nei poda kudadu andha friendukku." And she had kept 2 separate bowls, one with ghee and one without ghee. And that was a lesson on active listening, because I had forgotten. So when you are totally invested in the job that you're doing, which is making pongal for her, she understood and she remembered. So these are little things which teach me that listening is, and I took that, I felt so happy that day, saying that, okay, she's taught me a lesson. So look around you, you'll have so many stories. And when you craft a compelling story, you just have to look around, start a folder. Today it's stories I can share. You can share stories of yourself, you can share stories of your colleagues, and you can share business stories. So I shared stories of Cadbury, that's a business story. It's available everywhere, but I chose to say because I found another meaning of how one can communicate very clearly to the masses and to your internal customers, your own people, that everything is well. So go ahead, create, craft your compelling stories. Be concise, be clear, and be clever sometimes. So all the C's come together, because I think startup is such a wonderful place where ideas happen. I think I can imagine your laptops, your inbox being flooded with ideas, with so many people who maybe can't afford YNOS subscription or may want multiple subscriptions. It can be so many, but ultimately you are giving wings to somebody to fly off, to get into that next stage of their, career, next stage of their life, where they are building a huge product and they're coming to you. So be compassionate and tell that story. Look around and you will find stories. And when you tell your story authentically with your body language, and when you are very, very clear, and when you are trying to be considerate to your colleagues, and when you are saying, okay, she or he might have a point, let me think about it, I think it will be a success story for YNOS. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm happy to take any questions. No questions means only 2 things. It was terrible, I want to have dinner, or oh my God, is that what she said? I'd like to think it was the second. No, but seriously, any questions?
They need some warming up.
No, they'll. So yeah, Chetan.
How was your journey when you started? You had you when
So right now I am also a startup company, but I have only one person, which is me. I'm a solopreneur. So which means I have to raise the invoice, I have to also craft those story titles and everything. But I think I was always a storyteller, and 1995 I released an audio cassette, and from then there's not been any looking back. But I wanted to be in marketing and sales, and that was just, I wanted to be a filmmaker because I'm a graduate in mass communication, so postgraduate. So I thought I'm going to make films and all, but then life takes you on, and I think I never said no to any opportunities. So I did marketing, and I'm glad I did marketing and sales, because I'm able to, and I also did a 2-year stint in HR. So I was on the other side, you know, where I had to defend why only this much increment was given, and you know, why HR has certain policies. So it was nice. I think overall, in my 3 decades of being in Chennai and doing multiple different things, I think doing only one thing bores me. So multiple things, and then of course acting in between, and so it's been a good ride. But Cube was amazing, because 5 years I was an assistant director to PC Sriram and Mr. Jayendra in their ad film world, and 18-19 years I served as. When I quit after 5 years, he offered me a role in his other company, which was Real Image, and then it became Cube. So thank you for asking. Yeah.
I said that we can solve any issue by
Yes.
communicating with
Yes.
them. If at all the other person doesn't want to communicate at that point in time, or even after a point in time, how do we deal with them?
Very nice question. So if that other person does not want to communicate, you cannot stop trying. You have to be at it, because there'll be multiple ways. So I remember the anecdote I told you about going and sitting next to him. We'll have to figure out what is it that other person might not want to talk. I'd only want to listen to some music or something. Find out what music he or she listens to. Talk about that particular, or maybe he or she is a movie buff. Talk about movies, or loves ice cream. Go say, let's go for an ice cream, you know, talk over ice cream. We have to, because even if the other person doesn't want to communicate, the problem has to be solved. So you can't, because if you go to your boss and say that I can't solve this problem, then he will solve it, he or she will solve it, but then that might not make you feel happy, because then he or she is coming from a position of leadership, a position of being the boss, and then all our problems have to go to the boss. Then why are you there? If you are there, you will have to solve. It's not easy. I'm now able to look back and say, yes, I solved it like this, but there were times when I almost wanted to give up, and I said, I don't want to be in this line. But then those were just the positives. See, they say that it takes 5 positive thoughts to, you know, diminish 1 negative thought. So I think we have to keep tricking our mind, training our mind to continuously think positive, saying, no, I think I should be, I'm going to solve this. Come what may, it might take 2 days, it might take 2 weeks, but I am going to solve. And you'll be surprised that when you are at it for constantly, you will be able to solve it. I hope that answered you. Yes, Deepta.
First of all, ma'am, personally, you was really inspiring.
Thank you.
I am an overthinker.
Oh, yeah, so am I. Welcome.
That brings me to your question. The question. I think a lot. There's always, like, you were speaking and I was constantly thinking, I have so many stories to tell.
Correct.
But I'm an introvert. So 2 things happen. One thing, if I want to tell my story, I'm scared. What if the other person is not interested? They have so many stories. Why would they be interested? Second thing, how do I tell my story? Not care that, okay, I should be original. You said be authentic.
Yes.
But what if they don't like it?
Okay, so we are all plagued by WWPS. What will people say? Whether it is an email or whatever, in Hindi it's called LKK, Log Kya Kahenge. It is forever plaguing us because we think that they have all the time to judge you. But believe you and me, they don't have the time. They are all doing their jobs. They are not even worried about whether your story is good, but yours is Your story is yours. And the moment you take control, take ownership of your story and say, this is my story, this is how, and that is where your body language comes. You say, this is my story. I don't know whether you will, don't apologize. Why should you apologize? We all have this mistake of saying, I don't know whether you like it. Now, if I had started today, my entire talk saying, I don't know whether I'm going to do justice, you will be thinking, then why did Professor Rajan even invite her? Your mind will already, trick you to say that it's not going to be good. Chumma, she'll tell 1 or 2 stories enough. It has to be relevant to the topic. It has to be relevant to the Founders' Day that you're celebrating today. It has to be relevant to 10th of April. It has to be relevant to this audience. It is completely fine. So I have authored 3 children's story books. The first one was about an ostrich that stammers and is unable to tell his story. It's called the Jungle Storytelling Festival. I was like nervous. First of all, I was very happy that Tulika Books, one of the leading publishers in Chennai, accepted my manuscript. So I said, what will people say? One person gave me a very bad review saying the language is very simple. But then picture book is all about picture and text. Text has to be minimal, picture has to be more. I said, it's okay. I continue to do, I just performed that story in Bangalore last weekend. It was a roaring success. People like it. I started with 2 people in my house. Today people pay money and come to my storytelling. So that is saying that, okay. Second story was Party's Rasam, which my daughter and I wrote together, which won the Jarul Book Award. It is published by Karadi Tales because Jarul Book Award is voted by children. 10,000 children voted, and obviously we got more votes than the other book. So that means one reassurance that, and it's all about death, loss, memories. And I said, people love it because COVID changed the way even children looked at death. The third one is about Appu the Thirsty Crow, where Appu and Ammu, 2 crows, get very, very upset that the grandfather is giving the same Thirsty Crow story. They wanted a new story. Now, if I was sitting and thinking that these are my stories, people are not going to like it, I would have never seen the light of the day where I am able to perform these stories. My 4th book is stuck at the press. I don't know when it will come, in Mango Books in Kerala, and it's about a squirrel chasing a rainbow. It's absurd, no? These are all, you'll say, but I'll tell you the relevance of children's books to corporate. The moment I tell a story which is, in Great Lakes where I teach, even in dorms and all, I have shared stories of children, children's stories with them, and immediately, you let go of your guard. Till then you're like this, and then you say, oh, this is so wonderful. Look at the moment I said crows and all, you were wondering, yeah, actually, yeah. Because we were all children once, and we all have a child inside us. Somewhere we've lost it. So why not bring it back? So never ever, each one of your story is a gem. Think of it, accept, manifest that you're going to get the next Jarul Book Award. You do it. See, this manifest word is now doing the rounds, okay? Everybody says, I'll manifest that YNOS is going to be top notch. But if you don't work and you don't go to work and you say, anyway I've manifested, no? Even community manifesting, nothing. You have to work, no? If I manifest, I never manifested a TED talk, but I gave my TED talk. Recently I gave it, and I was dying million deaths saying, what will people say? What will people? But it was my story. It was all about JOMO, the joy of missing out. Nice topic. I really, and I connected it to my stories, and I share. It's my story, no? I can't please the whole world. Imagine if we had to please the whole world. Then imagine all the Deepika Padukones and other people who get trolled for any activity. They don't even look at the comments, yeah. They must have put, then some millions of people will like it, and they keep going. So nobody has the time to say that her story was bad. And see, we are all introverts and extroverts as we like to be. If I go for my husband's IIT KGP reunion, though I would like to have a say there also, but I will keep quiet. Recently I went for a reunion, school friends met, and I actually Said it's so nice to just listen to them because they were reliving all the, Bombay days and how they went to this local and how they had that vada pav and all that. It's so nice because I don't know that part of my husband, and I was feeling really happy. I don't always have to have the last say. So an introvert and extrovert, you're all both introvert extroverts in as far as situation demands. So please, if you all have stories, open your laptop, open a folder, start writing stories. I'm telling you, it'll all come in handy when you all have big teams. You really will have amazing stories to tell, because I can tell Cadbury's story, but that was still Cadbury's story. I didn't do anything, no. The way I tell you, and I felt as if it was happening in front of me, and because I read enough, I saw some videos and I did some research. But when I tell my story, it's like I'm reliving, it's happening in front of me. And if it's happening in front of me, it'll be happening in front of you. So please, stories is the easiest way to connect. Stories is immediately, and don't say, I'm sorry, I'm going to tell you a story. Then anyway, they will not listen. Say, can I have 5 minutes of your time? I want to share something, and then start. They'll drop all the guards so many times. I've seen it happening. And it just connects because we don't tell enough stories, and we are a nation of stories. Look at our mythology, look at our oral tradition. Who ever saw any thirsty crow? Who told it first? Who told Party Sutta Vadai? It's all been traveling through generations, and each house, each grandmother had a different way of sharing that story. Have you heard of this story, Attari Pattitta? Okay, quickly I'll end. There was this man who was very forgetful, and he kept on forgetting the names of everything, and sometimes he'll forget the name of his wife also. And one day the wife got very angry and she said, go to your neighboring village, go and have some fun with your friend and come. And she said, don't forget yourself, okay, come back. He said, no, I won't forget. He went, and there that wife made korakate. Korakate is dumpling, okay, it's made out of rice flour, and it has sometimes it's made sweet and salt, but that day this woman had made salt korakate. He says, this is amazing, this is something that my wife never makes. And she said, he's asked, what is the name? She said, korakate. So he said, korakate. I'll remember, I have to go and tell my wife to make it. So he kept on saying korakate, and he kept coming. And then it's a Malayalam folktale, so there was Sugandanne. He said, Sugandanne korakate. Every time he repeated, but as luck would have it, he slipped and he fell on the coconut tree, and he hurt himself, and all the children there said, Attari Pattita. So this guy forgot korakate, and he said, Attari Pattita, and he went home and he had told his wife, my friend made this amazing friend's wife, it's called Attari Pattita. She says, there is no dish like this. He said, no, it was rice flour, and it was so nice, it was very soft, and it was really white, and it had tarka of this and all. But it was called Attari Pattita. She said, you're mad. There is nothing called Attari Pattita. He said, no, but it is Attari Pattita. And she said, please go to sleep. I have made something. You just have that porridge and sleep. Next day morning, because he hurt himself, he had a big bump. And she says, what's wrong? What has happened on your forehead? It is swollen like a korakate. That korakate. So, didn't you all enjoy it? 2 minutes you all went to that land. You pictured how this man would have been, and that bump. That's all it is. It took me less than 2 minutes to share that story. Sometimes to just ease the tension in the room, no? I used to share a lot of stories. And then my boss would say, will this take 5 minutes or is it a long story? So I'll say, sir, it will take at least 6 to 7. And then of course he used to take us out for lunch, dinner and all. That time long stories would happen because other stuff would be there where people would really enjoy. But these are things that could just liven up the moments. So I didn't prepare this story. If I had to perform this story, it will take about 15 to 17 minutes for children. And I did it in less than 5 minutes for all of you. So it's the whole thing is about having a bag of stories always and picking it up and sharing it at that. You won't know the impact because see, your story might inspire somebody. Your story might really, really inspire. So please, please, I urge all of you to share stories because it really makes the world a happier place. And I'm not saying all stories have to end happily ever after. There are stories which are complex, which have different emotions, but share. Share and see how beautifully the other person receives it. And if they don't understand and they ask you a question, don't feel said, oh, I didn't share it properly. Say, no problem, I'll explain to you. But don't overthink or over-explain. If they don't get it too much, you say, it's okay, I'll share another story another day. Yes.
So how do I handle a situation when I'm not really interested in the conversation?
You say that I have something really important, can I just excuse myself? But you tell them, oh, but you have to be in the conversation.
Just the two-person conversation.
That's a very tricky question. You can't fake listening because the other person will definitely find out. You can say that, can we change the topic? If the topic is something that is making you uneasy, because it happens. It happens when you're talking about something that triggers of a lot of emotions in you and you're not interested. You can always, when you go to see a theater performance, they'll always say there's trigger warning. This has bad words or this has some other things that might trigger off some emotional scenes. It talks about death. Like that you can always, see, it's always nerava nerapo. I think you need to be very clear. But if they are very, very close to you, you can say, hey, please, I cannot handle this conversation. If that person is your true friend, he or she will understand. But if it's something, you will have to wait till they complete and they say, can we do this another day? That's the easiest way to get out. Otherwise, it will continue. Yeah, it can get sometimes, there are some people who talk in WhatsApp. You have 1:0.5. You can play in the speed. Many of us play some people's voice note into double the speed. Correct? Say yes. I know all of you do. Because they'll say hi. I was thinking, and you will say hi. I know I was thinking. There are people like that, but we can't help it. But I think being very clear with them, I think is, because there's no point, you are also not listening, it's a waste of time. Why? But it comes with practice. I know, I understand, I feel you.
Maybe we have reached time. So we have a small.
Oh, award and all, huh? Nice.
For some of the team
I know,
members that,
nice.
you can
Sure, of course.